Are we live? Are we live?
You tell me.
Just a bit there.
You're in control. It does say live on Zoom.
I think
it's not red. Red's usually the indication.
Hold on. We are live. We are live. Oh,
buzzing.
Oh. Hello. Oh shit. Hold on.
Are you gonna try your music intro again?
No, there we go. That's it. I had the stream manager on. That was putting out some audio, and the Twitch page was putting out audio, and the Zoom was putting out audio. So it was like, hello. So, but no, I think we're good.
Decent.
Right. So we're back. We're back with UFC 252 preview show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Myself, you and Massey, and Craig, the Allfather Mitchell.
I'm entertained that you use that fight name, considering it's only been fucking amateur fights that I've actually done.
Yeah,
I like it.
Good, I'm glad.
You'll need to work out a nickname for yourself next time round.
Well, how about this? Whoever's watching, you can choose my nickname. See, there's two viewers. One's probably Zoe. One's probably...
You're in trouble, mate.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that actually. Yeah. I might do a poll. I might do a poll on my Twitch. My Twitter. Sorry, Twitch. Yeah. Oh, Guru's watching. So yeah, he's not getting to choose a nickname. Hey, Guru, how's it going, man? You're still on a high from yesterday, aye? If you don't know, Craig, Guru beat me on a 1v1 in Call of Duty. So. But he is sweaty. He's very good at the game. He's very sweaty. So yeah. So Guru says nickname can be loser. Nice. Cheers, Guru. Appreciate
you
it.
You in the loser, man.
To be fair, it's pretty accurate. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Right. Okay. Well, let's get started. Let's get stuck into it. So yeah, we are here to talk about the. Oh, sorry. Guru's just saying hello, Craig. How are you?
How's it going? Yeah, I'm good. Pretty good. It's nice that you ask. You didn't, so.
I did so. It was before the stream, but there is a bit of a delay. So like I'm speaking to Craig, and then it's taken about a couple of seconds to get into the Twitch stream, and then also it's going to take a couple of seconds for folk to write any messages. So I will try and catch up as I go along, but we'll see what happens. Okay, right. So let's get stuck into it. Yeah, the main sort of show we're talking about is the UFC 252 tonight, Stipe versus DC. But there's a couple of things that we're going to be touching on before we do that. So, Allfather Mitchell. The first thing, Paige Van Zandt signing with Bare Knuckle FC.
Yeah, I find that a really odd one because I don't know if the UFC's decided that can't be done with you. You're a bit of a liability, or if maybe she's getting more money, which I doubt. But I mean, that's becoming more and more of a thing. People go into this bare knuckle thing. Like Chris Liebman's there just now, which I don't really agree with because he's taken enough damage over the years. But yeah, it's just a bit of a weird one. But we love to talk about Paige Van Zandt. You know?
We do. I think that's the thing. You know, Paige Van Zandt's more than just fighting, isn't she? She's got some certain things going for her that make her someone that people want to talk about. So I did read a tweet that was saying that they think maybe the UFC's kind of sold her a bit short. Dana White, after her last fight, said maybe she should try free agency. So, you know, the word was that maybe she was a bit lowballed by other organizations, and Bare Knuckle seem to have this magical pot of money that I don't know where they get it from, but maybe she's been given a bit of a pay from them. But you know, it's a tough one. Like I said, she's got more than just a fighting game. She's got her Instagram, you know, her looks that are the main thing. She's
basically now what are they called, influencer?
Yeah, an influencer. Yeah, absolutely. But like, you know, in Bare Knuckle FC, you're gonna get pieced up. You're gonna get scars. You're gonna get, you know, how's that gonna be for her going forward?
I don't know. it's maybe not as bad as people put out to be, but maybe from her perspective, she's going into still a relatively new to the limelight sort of thing. Are you just getting complimented on your
Sorry, yeah.
website?
So one of my channel points now is flex, and Collective Unit has just redeemed it, so I had to flex for him. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, bare knuckle boxing is something that is not mainstream. Certainly not UFC mainstream. I mean, I can't think of. To be honest, it's probably on the level of Kabaddi at this point in time, where it's still people know about it, but it's still pretty obscure. It's obviously, it's one of the oldest, certainly British sports there is. But yeah, I think in like this sort of timeline that we're in, I think it's really weird because there's so much coming out about like concussion injuries and people getting longer suspensions for medical injuries in numerous sports, and yet you've got guys then going into bare knuckle boxing. You think, okay, how smart is that from a medical side of things? Yeah. But if people want to watch it, if it makes money, then people will go to it and people will gravitate towards it. So
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Just sort of quickly, Collective Unit is redeeming their flex, and he's asking if Mitchell can flex. So feel free to show your guns, mate.
I've got a long sleeve top on, so I can't even pull it up there. But there you go. Just for you.
Some boy. Look at that. That is a peak of human fitness. He said, "Oofed, he's the man." Yeah. So I totally agree with you. It's a tough one. But she said she wanted to do it to prove people wrong. If that's what she feels she has to do, then so be it. I just hope she doesn't have any lasting effects from it, and I hope she can continue to make money even after her, fighting career's gone. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Fair enough.
Next thing we'll touch on, Ray Borg. He's been released from the UFC. I was going to say finally, because it is a bit insensitive to say that, because obviously he has had problems with his kid and stuff. But the guy's missed weight on numerous occasions. He's pulled out so many fights. From a business perspective, sure, that's the right thing, but from the personal perspective, it's tough. It's a tough one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think from business perspective and in the fight game, you miss weight a few times, it puts a big black mark against you, and it's always going to be a question. I had a quick look through the stats in terms of his fights, and I don't think it was double figures for times that he's missed weight, but it was getting up there. And from 2 points of view for that. So business-wise, it's not great for the UFC because they've got people not making weight for the fights that they're being sanctioned for, that they're being put forward for. Second part of that as well is it can't be good on his own health and his physical well-being, because either he's not working on it, he's not putting himself through the process correctly, or he's not putting himself process to get there safely either. So if he's killing his body to get there and still not making it, that's awful. It's absolutely awful for his health, his career. So yeah, from that side of things, it actually didn't surprise me. I was surprised because Ray Borg obviously fought Mighty Mouse for a title. He's been in and around UFC for a long time. So to then kind of have him dropped out, and he lost his last fight, but prior to that he had a good few wins against him as well. So that, I found it a bit interesting. When you said to me, "Oh, Ray Borg's been let go," I was like, wait a minute, that's a big name for them. But business side, yeah. I don't know anything about his personal life, what's been going on with that, but
well, basically what it was, his kid was born and had a really bad, I think it was brain surgery or something that this kid needed. And it's been ongoing. It's not been fixed. I think his kid has seizures and
Okay.
Maybe it was brain cancer actually, or a tumor or something like that. But basically, he's had a fair. Him and his family have had a fair go at it, and he put out a statement where he said about how, like, he's not right mentally and stuff from it. He's taking a step away and doing it from there. So, I mean, I totally get that. It's tough, but as I say, from a business decision, the UFC historically has always thought about itself, and obviously has at this point. But again, it's given him chances, and as I say, there's been times he's not made the weight. Pulling out of a fight is different. If something's happened and you need to be there for your family, absolutely fine. Not making weight as a professional fighter is completely different.
It's a difficult one to do, because if you're missing weight and then you're still trying to make weight in the same division, then especially now, a lot of guys are moving up. A lot of guys are thinking, right, okay, now we know a lot of the science behind why cutting weight is bad for you. Water weight cutting, not losing weight. Then, okay, yeah, I'm going to move up. I'm going to have a fresher gas tank. I'm going to be healthier. My lifestyle will be better for me, which means I can train better. So if he was struggling to make weight and then thought, you know what, let's make this a bit easier on me. Let's go up a weight class, where he might not naturally be. He potentially would be smaller, but he's still able to fight. He's still able to then get a paycheck that way. Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame, because like I said, it surprised me when you said he's been let go. But okay, fair enough. And we'll see where he ends up. He could be a guy that gets picked up by other companies or smaller independent companies. We'll wait and see. Well, obviously, one of the things that I wanted to mention as well is that Corey Anderson's went to Bellator. That was a pretty big shock for me, because Corey Anderson's one of these guys that Corey Anderson was like, okay, he's a big prospect. He's been fighting a long time. He's exciting. People want to see him. He has one loss and boom, gone. But when I thought about this, he still had 2 fights in his contract. That's what surprises me as well, because UFC is not one for letting people out of their contract. They're more just, okay, let's get rid of you, sort of thing. Actually, that's maybe unfair. They're not of the ilk to kind of be like, right, you're going to have to sit in the sidelines for however many years until you can fight somewhere else. I think there's been a couple of high-profile names they've done that with. But Corey Anderson, like, his record prior to that loss was a good couple of wins at least. He had another loss. But he was in positive numbers over his last, like, 4 or 5 fights. It's not like he was on a huge losing streak.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is he's going to Bellator, and he could pretty much walk into the title contention. So Ryan Bader is the current champion. He's got a fight. It's either this weekend or next weekend. It's very soon anyway.
Yep.
Corey Anderson could easily walk into that title contention. And looking at some of the Bellator light heavyweights, I mean, you've got the likes of Phil Davis. He had a run-in with the UFC and he left. Bellator will allow you to use sponsorship in terms of, your t-shirts, your banners, whatever it is. Whereas, of course, the UFC stopped all that with the Reebok deal. So there is money to be made that way. And apparently, Corey Anderson at number 4 in the UFC rankings, he was like, I'm not getting enough money out of this. Spoke to DC, funnily enough, and DC kind of said, look, you need to start. Your attitude is that you'll fight anyone, anywhere you want to fight. That's all great and everything, but you need to get paid for that. Like, you can't just keep putting yourself out there against dangerous fighters and just being like, I'll just take a paycheck. I'll fight anyone. So maybe from perspective of the Bellator roster is not as competitive as UFC. UFC is still the peak of combat sports from a class level. Plain and simple. We see whenever somebody comes in from any other promotion that they get hard draws. They don't get an easy fight. Whereas the other way around, going down to Bellator, he doesn't necessarily get an easy fight, but he potentially gets an easier fight that could make him more money. He could win a title. So maybe from a personal perspective, that's a good move for him. On the other side, you want to think about, right, so is this guy actually wanting to fight the best, or does he want to be a champion? Because that's two very different things. Because you could be a champion at a small independent scale. Great. I'm a champion now. Okay, fine. But if you really want to be the best in the world and progress and have a legacy behind you, you want to be in the top company, you know.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I find it a bit of a bizarre one. I think maybe he's chose to walk away, not just for the money, but also the loss he had last time was a fairly big loss, and maybe he's not up to that fight to be on top again. Who knows? I could be wrong. It could be just that.
I mean, with Corey Anderson, I do remember, I think, if I remember correctly, he was holding out for a shot at John Jones, and even at like a fan event or a meetup or something like that, he actually confronted him. So okay. I think possibly the fact that he wasn't getting that title shot as well was maybe playing on him. But
yeah, and you look at some of the guys that have been given title shots against John Jones. You know, we had Dominic Reyes, so he was 12-0, which was February this year. Yeah. Like, I looked this up earlier and I was like, where the fuck is this guy? Wait a minute, he fought in February. That's not that long ago. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I guess that's kind of testing where the year has gone. But Dominic Reyes was not ready for John Jones. He took him the decision, great, wasn't ready for him. Moreta, he took Jones the entire 5 rounds on no legs. His knees were absolutely fucked, and did really well. But maybe he wasn't right up there. You know, he's. I think with light heavyweight, you know, unless you're looking at the likes of when John Jones fought Gustafsson and when he fought DC. Gustafsson and DC were at the top level there. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fighters now are coming through light heavyweight that they kind of go, man, this guy's ready for John Jones. And was it not Corey Anderson that fought the guy Walker and just fucking annihilated him? Yeah. Absolutely destroyed him. But Johnny Walker, people were like, oh, this guy's got the tools to beat John Jones. It's like, well, he doesn't. Plain and simple. You can't. Bren Schaub talks about taking. They want to make superstars. They don't want to make fighters anymore. You know, years ago you had to fight until you had beaten everyone else. Then you can get a title shot. Now it's like, oh, you beat a couple of guys, cool. Let's give you a title shot. And that's kind of been more relevant or more prominent since the McGregor era, because McGregor beat a few guys that were good, that were outside the top 10. He beat one top 10 fighter in German guy.
Seaver. Dennis Seaver.
Yes, Dennis Seaver. He fought Dennis Seaver, and he beat Dennis Seaver, sorry, and then title shot. But there was like 3 or 4 or 5 other guys ahead of him that realistically were more deserving and were bad matchups for him. Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes, okay, he fought and Mendes gassed and that was it. But Mendes on a full camp, I don't think McGregor does the same to him at all. And I think they're looking for a new superstar. They're desperately trying to get guys to the top of the mountain as quick as possible, as quick as they can. And it's not good for the sport in many ways, and it's also not good for the guys that are actually like fighting and winning and fighting and winning and fighting and winning, and then not getting anywhere. You know, Charles Oliveira just now, he is undefeated in
your boy.
My boy, yeah. He's undefeated. He's in a long run of matches. I think the last fight that he lost is when he hurt his neck, when he got thrown against the cage. He's got the highest submission victories of all time in UFC.
Yeah.
And yet he's still getting handed guys that are either not in top 10 or just outside top 10. And that to me is ridiculous, you know, like give him a top 10 fighter, give him a top 5 fighter. And, you know, in a perspective of give him a top 5 fighter and he gets beat, okay, he has to beat some guys in top 10, fine. But give him a top 5 fighter and he wins, title shot. Like it's you know, if you're not giving him the opportunity to advance, if you're not giving him the top 10, top 5 guys, where can they go? They can keep winning, and then you might eventually give them a title fight if there's like problems with, you know, a top 5 fighter pulling out of fights, whatever else. But it doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem right that guys can just kind of get a quick resurgence of quick surge of momentum and then be thrown into title fights. And it's like, okay, but they need to prove where they need to be. Darren Till's maybe a great example as well. Darren Till is going to be a champion someday. I 100% believe that. He's not quite ready yet, and he's not quite there yet. So yeah, they need to nurture their talent a lot more and not throw them straight into, you know, main events. It doesn't seem right to me.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that's going to be something we'll be probably touching on later about a certain fighter that is on the card.
Maybe.
Quickly, I just want to say, Stu, thanks for following, mate. Appreciate you dropping by. Hope you're doing well. I believe you're playing poker earlier. Hopefully you won a lot of money. And if you do have money, you can use your Amazon Prime sub or $4.99 as a tier 1 sub in the channel. Right. So
you get that plugs in.
I didn't get plugs in. Yeah. Totally. I totally agree with the nurture side of things. But like I say, we'll probably touch on a certain fighter that is on the card there. Cool. Anything else you want to cover about that part, Craig? You happy with that?
No, I mean, I think that's fine. I wanted to sort of rally a little around Herb Dean at the moment, because Herb Dean's getting a lot of flack because he basically had one very high profile run-in with Dan Hardy. Now, love Dan Hardy. He is very intelligent in terms of what he knows about the fight game, and that's great. And he obviously had a teammate who was getting that was done and absorbed some punishment that he didn't need to, and he confronted Herb Dean. Herb Dean has then had another late stoppage against his name, and people are just jumping on him and being like, this guy's terrible, how can you do this? And like, for me, over the years that I've watched UFC, I've seen awful referees and I've seen awful decisions, but Herb Dean has always been a bit of a consistent performer. He's always been one of the best. There's a few fighters that will ask for Herb because they trust him that much and they believe in his ability as a referee. So it seems very odd that he's kind of getting so much flack right now, because he is by far one of their better referees, like by a mile. Actually, maybe not quite so much now. He's still one of the best. He looks at likes of a Dan Miragliotta or
Big John.
Big John, yeah, of course. Like, guys that have been there for years and know the fight game in and out. There's some other guys that I really like seeing as well, but they're still not quite at the level of Dean. And it really surprised me that so many people are turning their back on him just now, when it's like, but hang on a minute, we've seen him get incredible decisions and jump in at perfect moments. He has a couple of bad ones. Okay, he's had a couple of bad ones over the years, but in comparison to like Mari Yamasaki, who'd like consistently poor performances as a referee.
Steve Mazzagatti as well.
Steve Mazzagatti, yeah. I don't know. Steve Mazzagatti, I think, had some poor ones, but I don't think he was the worst. But I think he kind of got routed out because he had a few in a row that were pretty bad, and then it was like, okay, maybe you're done. Like maybe somebody else should be stepping into this. But yeah, it surprises me, and I'd like to think more people remember his body of work than just kind of always had a couple of bad decisions, because I don't think that is reflective of him as a referee or of his career.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, if you do see me kind of laughing or something, I'm just reading the chat as you're doing your thing and chatting away. So Stu was saying, no problem, mate. Yeah, I was playing poker, but it was a quick losing session, just a 10 quid though. Hopefully make some cash back at the UFC tonight. So looking for some insight, no pressure. I think that's a little bit of pressure. Then Collective says that I just choose the bookies' faves, so we didn't bank on it. Well,
which is the dangerous thing about that is with fighting, it's
Yeah.
very difficult to make money if you're just betting on, I think this guy's going to win. You need to bet on like round stoppage,
Yeah.
like submission. You need to put big money on very specific outcomes, and
Yeah.
it's a very
And anything
dangerous
can
game.
happen. It's a fight game, isn't it?
Yeah,
But Stu says it's usually his logic. He puts on the favourites. Fair enough. Just to I forgot to say, in terms of predictions today, I'll be making mine first. Then Craig will be choosing his. So yeah, go with what I say.
So if you don't know, there's a bit of a running joke that Ewan waits for me to make a prediction and then agrees with me. At the moment, however, I am ahead by 1 with our predictions.
You are.
So yeah, hopefully that'll be different. I mean, I don't know. There might be a few that we'll agree on. There might be a few that we don't. So I'm interested to see where that comes from. And there's also one that I haven't decided because I'm objectively going to go with whatever else Ewan says, just to make things a bit interesting.
We'll see what happens. Stu also says, kind of new to UFC game, but always thought that Herb was one of the top refs. Well, yeah, I mean that's it. We're right. He is. And you know, as Craig was saying there, the sort of the criticism he's getting just now, I don't feel it's warranted. You know, it's such a tough thing to do, be a referee in the UFC, and you're looking at, you know, everything that's happening. You're trying to protect the fighters. You know, at the end of the day, someone could get seriously hurt. And I think, you know, Herb is one of the best that does it. And yeah, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, if you can get the majority of your decisions, the overwhelming majority of your decisions correct, which Herb does, you can't really fault him if there's going to be 1 or 2 here or there that are maybe a bit more, you know, a bit more objective. People can make their own decisions as to whether they thought it was too early, too late.
Yeah, I think where the problem is just now is it's too late finishes and too late stoppages. Sorry, and I think that's where people are getting really upset about it. But yeah, it's. I mean, I guess, you know, if it's too early a stoppage, people aren't happy. If it's too late a stoppage, people aren't happy.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily a distinction of you have to be outstanding to be a referee, but you need to know how to fight. You need to understand when somebody's getting hurt. You need to understand when somebody is faltering and who is not surviving an onslaught, or is maybe even out as well. You know, if somebody's out, you should be able to recognize that they're out.
Mm-hmm.
You do want to say that you'd rather something was stopped early than late. It's a dangerous sport. There's going to be instances where people are hurt, whether it's stopped early or late or not. You know, so it just, I personally, for me, I would like to see people kind of stand up and say, well, hang on a minute, he's got a body of work that speaks for itself. Some poor decisions shouldn't define his career because he's not of that awful irk of, you know, the guys we've mentioned already.
Yeah,
so
definitely, absolutely. And just quickly touch on, you said also about how knowing when, knowing where the fight's going and what's happening. Herb Dean has fought a few times on the amateur circuit, and he's I think he's jiu-jitsu quite high up, isn't he? I know a lot of the refs are as well, but you know, he's actually had the fights in the cage. So if anyone knows when, it's him. So yeah, Collective also says UFC is scripted though. I suppose to a point.
Yeah.
And there's a bit, he said, there's a bit of a running joke. Ewan, just leave it at that. So yeah, appreciate this. We're almost at half an hour. So oh, for fuck's sake, right. Sorry. One of my other channel points is Pokemon impressions, and Collective Unit has just redeemed that as saying Mew, please, really high pitched.
Mew, fucking hell.
What's Mew? Is it Mew's like a weird like screech?
I don't know. It depends if you're playing Game Boy or watching the shows.
Okay, well, I'm going to guess. There you go. Okay.
As a little bonus, so for a long time I was playing Pokemon Go, and every time I saw a certain Pokemon, I would have to do an impression of them, and it was Shelter. And I just every single time I was with somebody and I saw a Shelter, I would have to scream it in their face. So there's a little extra for you.
So that's impression from both of us there. So yeah. Hey Lloydie, how's it going? Lloydie's saying hello to myself and you, Mitch.
Hello.
Allfather. You know Lloydie, don't you? Is it not one of your pals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lloyd's one of the guys I train with.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Always very supportive in doing so. Thanks.
Good man. Okay, Collective says I'm mugging folk off for these point redemptions. Oh well, tough. I'll review it today. Don't worry. Okay, yeah. So we're half an hour in, and we haven't spoke about any of the main event fights yet. So just quickly touch on as well. UFC 4 is out. People are saying the yeah, I think it was out yesterday, maybe. I'm sure it's out. I'm sure it's out. Sure it is. But folk are saying that the grappling and the ground game has been changed dramatically, and the striking is really fluid. Also, the career mode's apparently amazing. So I may need to pick that up if I can scrape together some funds. But yeah, looks pretty good.
I've got a feeling that one of my friends is picking that up, and he usually goes balls deep in organizing events when he gets interested in stuff. If you don't know as well, I'm part of PPVW, Claude Monet. So PPVW is pay-per-view wrestling. So you can find us on YouTube.
Hold on. Are you actually self-promoting on my channel?
I'm actually self-promoting.
What?
Yeah.
Who said you could do that?
Me.
What?
You don't have a show without me, mate.
Right, go for it. Go on. I'll let you do it this time. On you go.
So yes, if you want to see a bit of fun, a bit of daft entertainment, you also get to see me commentate on well, not my own matches, but obviously other people's matches, and it's a bit of good fun. We play on WWE 2K each iteration. This past year was very interesting, and there is blue screens of death everywhere, so that's fun as well. In fact, I think one of our events, we got our biggest pop of the night when we got our first blue screen of death, so you can look at that if you want.
Was that on Twitch?
I recommend it, actually. No, it's
just YouTube.
Been on Twitch, but it's through Reset, so Reset Aberdeen, which is a gaming event where we tend to host our events as well. Also a fantastic place to go if you like playing games.
Where can you find it on YouTube, sorry?
If you search for PPVW, you should find some of our videos. It's basically 2K for WWE. So you can look out for the likes of Claude Monet. You could look out for the likes of Jack Package.
I thought it was Package. I can see it here.
Package, mate.
Package, right, okay.
Big Christmas, our current reigning PPVW champion. So yeah, if you can find the site, go and have a watch.
I'll just pop it in just now. Oh, I can see. Oh my God, I see you, Craig. Just went the first thing. I don't know if Higgins is doing it, but I'll just pop it in here anyway. So that's the YouTube channel there. So let's see what the chat's saying. Collective Unit is saying, "Try again, please." Okay. I'm guessing this is music. Let's have a listen. Let's have we listen from you. Oh God. Okay, right, okay, I'll try again. I think that was probably just good enough. Collective Unit says self-promo on another streamer's channel. What a legend. Lloydie says yes. Oh, sorry, Gabby says hypocrite Massey. I'm not a hypocrite. Not at all. Lloydie says UFC 4 is amazing. I recommend it. I could share play it when I'm next on PS4. So
you get to see some of that. Yeah.
Well, I can't. I don't have PS4, so you do though, Craig, don't you?
I do. Yes, yeah, I do. It would involve me buying the game, and considering I spent £160 on Ghost of Tsushima, probably not be buying game for a little while.
But you're saying can you not share play it? Like, can you not just, you don't have to have the game and you can share play it with Lloydie, can't it?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think. I don't know how PS4 works, but yeah.
You're dying, mate.
Collective says, "Nah, I'm not partaking in Mitchell's self promo." I know it's pretty harsh, isn't it? Pretty shocking on this channel. Gabby says that Mew impression was 0.1, even worse. Excellent. Grant had to go to work at 12:30 and was like, "No, I need to listen to the UFC preview." Well, yeah, you're here now, Grant. That's all that matters. So thanks much for dropping by. Collective Unit says PS4.
You'll be able to watch it afterwards as well.
Yeah, you can watch it afterwards. Of course, it will be as a VOD on Twitch, and I will upload it to YouTube as well. So you can go back and listen to the half an hour where we just spoke absolute shite if you want. Absolutely fine.
Just half an hour, mate. Come on.
It was, yeah.
So far, maybe, yeah.
Collective says PS4 Master Race, and humble brag. And yeah, Grant Freeland says nice one. So yeah, absolutely. If you're, as I said, if you're missed any of it, or if you can't stay around for the whole time, it will be as a VOD on my Twitch channel, which you're obviously on, and I will be uploading it to YouTube as well, so you can catch it on there. So yeah, and that's Massey 1983, by the way, because I had the Massey 1983 channel, but I've totally don't know the password to get into it, and it's a really old one. So 1983, and I'm raging about that.
Jesus.
Yeah. Grant says if there's any DC bashing, I'll unfollow. Don't worry, we're not quite there yet. That'll be the last fight we will cover. So yeah. Okay, I think we should probably jump into the main card.
Yeah.
Right. So first fight we have John Dodson versus Merab Dvalishvili.
It's not bad. Well done.
So, Craig, what do you think of this fight?
This one, I think, I actually think this could be the best fight of the night, because Dodson is extremely quick, like super fast. He's able to move out of reach and slide away from people really quickly, in a way that nobody else can do it in the UFC. He really makes himself tough to hit, and he's never actually been finished as well in the UFC, which is testament to kind of the amount of movement he can do. His last fight against I think it was Nathaniel Wood, took a few big shots, but because he's moving away from them, he doesn't get the same damage off of it. So it means that he's then able to kind of keep moving. He doesn't get sparked quite as often, and he was also pretty comfortable grappling with him as well. So Wood had a good few inches on him, and when Wood tried to get him up against the cage, Dodson was able to get in under him, get the underhooks, and really control him from the side there. So Dodson's got a lot of dangerous tools. He's had a huge body of work as well. He's fought likes of Dillashaw, who he beat. He's fought Mighty Mouse. He fought Peter Yan, the current champ. So he's a very experienced fighter, and I think a very dangerous fighter as well, because he can still knock people out, such as Dillashaw he did with that speed that he has. Merab, so his last fight against Lopez, he was able to kind of get in and around him. He had something like 13 takedowns on him, but he didn't seem to do the sort of damage that he could have. He got a really interesting sort of, it was a submission attempt where it's basically like a neck crank, where he also then worked in an arm bar, and he was really working for that. Lopez did great to kind of get out of that, but the first time he got on his back and was holding Lopez from standing, he was really struggling to take him down and to really pop and do something with it. Whereas Dodson's just not going to be there. If he gets a hold of him, then he's really going to struggle. He's not going to be able to just get a hold and wait, because Dodson's already going to be working his ass off to get out of there. So I think he's really going to struggle with him. He's also going to have to try and chase Dodson down. Dodson in his last fight against Wood as well, there was one point where he was able to slip a punch and literally be on the other side of Wood and manage to throw some shots from there, and also rush them quite a few times as well. And the speed that he's got, he was literally able to rush him from one side of the octagon to the other. And that's in a full-size octagon as well. So we have a slightly smaller one this time round, which might not make a huge difference for these smaller fighters. But being able to do it in a full size, he'll be able to do that in a small side as well.
Absolutely. So, guys, as you'll notice, Craig likes to talk. I'm not wanting to interrupt him in his flow, but you were talking about a sub there, Craig, a sub attempt. There has been a sub in the chat. Grant has subbed with tier 1, so thank you so much for that, mate. I really appreciate it, and thanks for the support. Thanks for coming by and chatting away. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't actually know too much about the two of them. I tried to find out about them, but it seemed to be hard. I know Dodson's a bit of a legend. He's had quite a few fights. I do know that I'll call him Merab. He is on a 4-fight winning streak. So you know, we talk about momentum all the time. Could be something that comes into play. As you say, you know, Dodson against Nathaniel Wood. That was the guy that I was talking about last time. He was in the prelims. He's a really good prospect. In fact, his nickname is the Prospect. So, you know, get a win against Nathaniel Wood is pretty impressive. Yeah, you know, it's as you said, it could be one of the best fights on the card. We'll need to see. As I say, I don't know too much about the two of them, but I do know that Merab's ground game is pretty good, I believe.
Yeah, I think a lot of his fights, if I look back, they tend to be sort of decisions, a couple of submissions, I think, as well. So that suggests that he is able to kind of grind somebody out. The difference being you've got guys like Damian Maia, Khabib, Jackie Souza, who are able to take people down and end the fight there, not in a ground pound way, but just smother them, absolutely destroy them that way. And against Lopez, I didn't see him doing that. Lopez was really struggling by the end of the third round because he was just exhausted by that point. Merab did hit him with a big right at one point in the fight as well, and he was throwing some interesting sort of kicks, some spinning side kicks, and looked pretty nasty as well. You know, hitting in the abdomen, and that sort of thing will cause a lot of damage to somebody if they're not expecting it, if they're not prepared for it. But Dawson, I think, is just way too quick to get caught by something like that. Way too quick.
I suppose we will see, won't we? Just about the stats. So for Merab, he has 4.01 strikes per minute. Takedown average per fight is 8.67. And he's got 50% takedown offense.
And kind of pointing out, you know, we mentioned it last time around talking about like stats. So that's a pretty impressive stat in itself. But as I said, in this last fight, in 3 rounds, he had about 13 takedowns at least. So, like, that's where that bumps that up. And you've got to get a HUD of somebody first to be able to take them down.
You've got to get a HUD of somebody first. I like it. I like it.
I realised it.
For American listeners, that means a hold.
Get a hold of.
Okay, perfect. Anything else you want to cover about that? Are you happy enough?
No, I mean, I think I've kind of made my point, so I'll let you make your prediction first.
Okay. Dodson KO.
I have Dodson KO as well.
You're just copying me now. You're copying me.
I'm just copying. I know. As I said, I've no idea how deep this fight will go, but Dodson has the ability to knock him out, and I think if he moves off the angles with him right, he manages to keep himself off the cage and off the ground. He should just be able to pick him apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you guys all saw that. Craig went after me. He copied me. So right, next fight, Daniel Pineda versus Herbert Burns. Burns actually weighed in a bit overweight, I believe.
Okay.
So I don't know how much of a play that'll come into it, but I mean, Burns, he is 11-2. His last fights, He's on at least a 5-fight winning streak. But his ground game is incredible. Submissions here, there, and everywhere. Pineda is a bit of a vet. 39 total fights, 26-13. He had a couple of no contests actually. But apart from that, he's been a bit of a streak as well. So could be quite a good fight because I believe Pineda, his grappling and ground game is actually pretty good as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to take a moment just appreciate how good Burns' nickname is. The Blaze, like the Blaze Burns, beautiful. I don't know what it is about it. It just entertained me so much. And also has a fairly high profile brother as well.
That's Gilbert, if anyone doesn't know.
Yeah, who's so currently we have that slated between him and Adesanya doing Ultimate Fighter, I believe.
No, it's Costa.
Costa, okay, fair enough.
Burns just had to pull out the Usman fight.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, in his last two fights, against Jeff Dunham, who is another sort of stalwart to the UFC. He's been there a long time. He was able to get him down, a bit wild in his entrances when he was sort of swinging for him. But when he actually was on the ground, he very quickly transitioned from the position he was in to a submitting position as well. He had managed to sort of lace up the legs to get him down, and it looked as well like Dunham had injured his leg at that point when he got taken down. So that immediately took away some of the defense of Dunham, but he was able to submit him pretty convincingly against Landwehr. Something like that. He started very quick. He liked to throw a big middle kick, which he actually did against Dunham as well. And then again, very patient to get the submission. And striking seemed a bit more patient at that point as well. But still quite wild when he was going in. You know, he was able to he was throwing and then transitioning to a takedown, which was quite clever. And it's not the easiest thing to do. A lot of fighters struggle with that because unless they start training striking and grappling at the same sort of time, they either have a base of one or a base of the other. So then they want to be able to take down, so they need to incorporate striking into it, or they're striking and they need to try and incorporate grappling into it. And it's a very difficult transition to do if you're specializing in one area or not. So that was pretty that's pretty exciting to see. It makes him dangerous, but could get caught if he is just a bit too wild in the entrances when he's sort of swinging as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to touch on Burns. I know, again, it's your stats. I know you don't like the stats and stuff. Don't tell the full picture.
I don't like stats. It's just worth putting them into perspective sometimes.
Sure. Burns, takedown average per fight, 4.59. What do you think his takedown percentage is?
70%?
100%.
100%. Okay.
100%. Yeah. Mental.
But I mean, that's in the UFC though, yeah. So he's only had what, 3-4 fights in the UFC. That's still impressive figure though. If you're able to make 100% of your takedowns, then that is big. Because that will do a lot for scorecards if it does go that way as well.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's one of the key things is, you know, when it comes to scorecards, the judges obviously there's a lot of things that need to take into account, and they can be easy swayed by things like your takedowns and the way rounds end, especially if you end on top of the other fighter. What can I see?
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of these judges are not specifically MMA trained judges. They are more boxing orientated. So when they see a takedown, it tends to sort of tip the fight and tip the scale, because a knockdown in boxing is huge in terms of the scorecard. So I think a lot of the times the takedown gets considered in a similar sort of way, even when not that much gets done with it. If it's a complete takedown, it used to be a case of, well, you got a takedown, you won the round, even if you got your face smashed in the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that's, again, as is at the moment. And, you know, anybody who trains a fighter, or Dana White very famously is like, don't ever leave it in the hands of the judges, because, you know, they'll fuck you up basically. You know? So.
And you know, it's fair enough, isn't it? You know, we've seen so many fights that have gone to judges and, you know, are just atrocities in terms of where it goes.
Yeah, we've seen some very close ones. We've seen some absolutely ridiculous ones.
Yeah.
There's a fight we'll be talking about a bit later on where judges became a bit of an issue, if we want to think of it that way. And on top of that as well, you've got to think about it. Like, this is a guy's career, you know, and if a judge fucks that up, like with a win or a loss, that's always there. That's always in the record. That can't be overturned. You can't complain about that. So, yeah, it's a bit of a it is, you don't want to leave it in the hands of the judges, and if you do, you need to be sure that you've absolutely destroyed your opponent, and there's absolutely no argument for it. We were talking about Pineda. He's spent a long time out of the UFC. His last fight's ruled no contest due to banned substances, which I find interesting. It's only October 2019, so again, that highlights the issues that we have with doping violations, because, you know, you get guys getting, well, what are we at? Like less than a year out, and you get guys getting like 5-year sentences for nothing. But he's got a long fight history similar to Dunham. Burns has fought before, and I don't know. I mean, I think the last two fights, he has went in a fairly significant streak, but again, it's a total different step up in competition, being on an independent scene to being in the UFC. And although Burns is pretty early in his career, he's of a level that he is working impressively. He's putting his name out there, so that will be dangerous for Pineda. And I think we could see could be a very one-sided fight, but it could also be up-and-comer and sort of stalwart beating the shit out of each other for a couple of rounds. So it'd be interesting.
Absolutely. Okay.
I almost slipped into giving you.
I know. I was going to say, don't
stop myself. Stop.
Anything else you want to cover about that fight? Then, do you think you're happy enough with?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want my prediction?
Yeah, I do.
I have a feeling it's going to be exactly the same as yours.
Probably.
Go for Burns sub.
Okay, well, I've went Burns KO.
Okay.
So, because I think he's got that ability. He got a KO in his last fight, I think it was, with a huge knee. So, I think that's a possibility.
Fair enough. Okay, the next fight then, JDS versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Biggie boy. I love
Biggie boy, I know.
Which I think it's certain reasons it's literally just big boy, but Biggie boy makes it even better.
Absolutely.
Again, this is a pretty exciting one for what's happening at the top end of the card, because of where they both kind of rank, and what it could mean going forward. Because we are going to potentially be walking a bit of an unknown in the next few months with the heavyweight division. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. Again, it's got that potential for fight of the night, or if not, at least performance of the night, because it's heavyweight and anything can happen, you know. Like if we take each fighter individually, JDS has got a huge body work. You know, he's a former champ, very dangerous. He's got KOs against Mark Hunt, Cain Velasquez, Fabricio Verdum, Frank Mir, Stefan Struve. He's then got wins against Stipe, who's of course at the top of the card, and Derek Lewis, who's just fought last weekend as well. What I find interesting about his kind of body work that we're talking about there is he went 15-1 up until 2012, obviously, then the rematch against Velasquez. Since then, in his remaining 12 fights of his career, because he's now 21-7, he's basically 6-6, all at the highest level, but that is pretty telling in the fact that he's went back and forth. I think the actual record, I'll probably screw this up, that he has is like after he won the title, it was like loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, 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 loss, loss. So it's kind of like it's pretty spaced out there. So yeah, I mean he's been there and he's done that. He's still a very dangerous fighter, but he's lost his last two. So he really needs a performance in this one.
Yeah, I mean that's it. The thing is, like his last two fights, Curtis Blades and Francis Ngannou. He was knocked out by Ngannou. I mean, I wouldn't say that's exactly it's not a bad way to lose to Ngannou. He's probably gonna knock you out. So but I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. He seems to be, if he loses this, it's his third loss in a row. Yeah. But he's not actually looked that bad either.
Yeah. I mean, so talking about Ngannou's got, absolute shovels and bombs in his hands. Like, he will put you out very quickly. But the reason he got knocked out in that fight is because he threw a huge right. The sort of thing that dropped Cain Velasquez in the first fight and won him the title. He winds up and it comes all the way over. And he's just out of reach. And he's just out of that point of connection. So Ngannou's able to get out of the way, catches him, and then catches him again, and basically has JDS running to face plant. Like he's in a really bad place. But prior to that, it was pretty close. He tripped Ngannou with a huge leg kick. Huge. And okay, you catch somebody right at the right timing, perfect. You're going to trip them up. But the actual shot of it as well was just incredible. And that actual punch that he threw, if he connects with pretty much anybody in that division, that is a knockout punch.
Yep.
And if it's not a knockout, they're at least getting stung and dropped. It was an absolute haymaker he threw, which is maybe part of the problem that he has. Against Curtis Blades, which was the other fight he had. Again, it's very close. Defending takedowns well. There was something, he's not been taken down in a fight since 2012. It's mental. That he's not had a huge amount of fights in that time scale. If you think about some people's careers and momentum, but that's pretty nuts. Because especially going up against the likes of Curtis Blades, who he wants to take you down, he wants to finish you. His boxing's very good, but at times his chin's quite high and his hands are quite low, and that opens him up to getting sparked. And it often tends to be when he's disengaging as well, the hands come down, and when he's striking as well, the chin's up here, which you can't do, especially not a heavyweight. You've got to try and tuck your chin a bit, and you've got to work that stance. But he still has excellent striking out with that. Kind of the stark contrast, I guess, is Rozenstruik when he fought Overeem. Overeem spent the entire time like this, and there's a lot that happens throughout that fight that really stands out for Rozenstruik and for Overeem as well, I guess. But that gives you the idea that Rozenstruik will throw, and if JDS has got his hands down and his chin up, he just needs to catch him once, and we will see JDS drop. So I'm excited for seeing what JDS could do against Rozenstruik, but we'll actually see how this sort of pans out. It's worth kind of taking into consideration that Rozenstruik's also coming off the back of a huge knockout against Ngannou as well. And he gets caught in a quick exchange, and it's not that Ngannou's placing his shots very well. Ngannou's able to kind of just windmill a shot at you, and if your chin's in the way, it's gone. You're out. They're not precision strikes the likes of JDS is able to throw, but it's still a big shot. And JDS can also throw that huge shot.
Yeah.
And that was his first loss as well.
It
so it'll be interesting to see how he comes in against another power puncher between JDS and Ngannou.
Definitely.
If he's learned from that, or if he's gonna then still come in wild to try and knock him out.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, just to touch on kind of Rosenstruck, you know, okay, he got knocked out 20 seconds in, but as you say, Ngannou's punches were pretty wild. And I don't know if JDS does the same sort of, the
he
way
has,
that,
I mean, he has his moments, as I said, against Ngannou. He was winging a shot for the fences. He was trying to take his head off. Yeah. So he will do it. But he will maybe try and set up a bit more, or feint into it and then come over the top. Whereas Ngannou just kind of rushed, just swung, and good night.
Absolutely. And I think with Rosenstruck, if you look at who he's knocked out, over him, Arlovsky, it's some pretty big boys that can take punches in the heavyweight division. So.
Yeah, but actually, I wouldn't say that they're able to take punches the same way. I mean, Overeem hit Rosenstruck with a fair amount of big shots, and he just ate them. He just kind of took them. However, if you look at the Overeem fight, overall, Overeem does pretty well against him. Takes him down the first round, and he can't do anything get up. Yeah. And it's not that Overeem is outstanding on the ground. He is still, he has had some decorated wins on the ground in Pride, but he's not of the grappling prowess of some fighters. But he didn't seem to know simple movements to be able to get back up. Similarly, second round, he gets pushed up against the fence, and where Overeem kept him there, he was in control. He didn't have any problems. The successes that Rosenstruck had against Overeem was because Overeem was doing things wrong. It wasn't necessarily that Rosenstruck was doing something incredible to be a danger against Overeem. And Reem doesn't have the gas tank of JDS as well, so he won't be able to do that. Now, obviously, that fight was over 5 rounds. This one's over 3. So, like the actual tank of these guys isn't as big an issue. But should still sort of be relevant, especially if they start swinging. If they do connect a couple of times, that'll just deplete their gas tank immediately. But again, round 3 and round 4, round 3 he's fine when he's in the pocket and he's in range, but when he's taken down again, he's there. He's stuck there. 4th round, he rushes Overeem a couple of times, but Overeem has his hands. He covers up and he's fine. And they're both very tired at that point. And that's where he could rush JDS. And if JDS tries to move out of the way, one big shot over his hands will take him out. But he's still not really getting anything off of those offensive sort of segments against Overeem. Round 5, actually, if you look at the knockout, okay, he drops Overeem. He gets that huge cut in his mouth that splits it open. But I think it's John McCarthy who hasn't actually stepped in until Overeem gets back up and is wobbly. And it's in the last 4 seconds of the fight, or last 10 seconds of the fight, that entire thing happens. Potentially, so let's say he gets back up. He either survives that final 10 seconds, or if the referee recognizes his lips bust open, then maybe in those last 10 seconds, he gets a doctor and the doctor's like, fuck that, stop this. But I don't think he finishes Overeem the way that people talk about, oh, he knocked out Overeem. He dropped Overeem. He sparked Overeem. It was a big shot. But he walks off. He takes one more step in and hits Overeem once more. It's clinical. That's it. He is done and out. He's walking away. And Overeem, okay, he sat down and you can see he's a bit dazed, but he's not out. And I think in that sort of last 10 seconds of a fight, 5 rounds, it's very difficult to look at that as oh, he knocked him out, if he's still able to then get up. I mean, he's rocked. He stumbles about once he actually gets up, but he's still kind of there. And that for me, if he hadn't dropped him and knocked him out at that point, he's lost that fight. Overeem has won that fight. And Overeem, I don't feel, is as good a striker as he's sort of touted to be. He is certainly not a power striker like of an Ngannou or a JDS. He's got some nice, he landed some nice jabs and shots in that fight that Rozenstruik took. He ate, he just kind of walked through them. He's not going to be able to do that against JDS if JDS really gets off him. So JDS might actually want to try and get him to the ground, because if he gets him to the ground, he's won 100%.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else you want to discuss about that fight then? Or are you happy?
No, pretty good. Pretty good.
Right. So my prediction, Rozenstruik, early KO.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I've got JDS KO.
Okay.
So that one,
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited by that fight as well, because these guys could get a bit wild, so it could get very interesting. So yeah, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
I just think there's going to be a massive shot, and I think he's going to get him within the first round.
Okay, cool.
The first round.
Cool.
So
that's good. Good.
Okie doke. So the next fight, I think this is one that a lot of people are looking forward to as well. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on earlier the idea of people being skyrocketed a bit.
Yep.
So Sean O'Malley's on that skyrocket. And the UFC is putting everything into him. I mean, this is potentially the biggest fight of maybe not even just the year, the past few years. It's a trilogy fight. It's, for the heavyweight title. It is potentially crowning greatest of all time. So put Sean O'Malley on the co-main, it's a pretty big deal. He's doing well for himself. Might be a bit too soon for him. We'll wait and see, because Marlon Vera's got more of a more experience in the UFC.
Yep.
So that in itself might be an issue. We don't know how O'Malley's going to be able to handle that sort of exposure. But I guess the difference being is that they're not in front of a huge crowd. They're not in front of a crowd full stop. So it's maybe a bit more familiar for them, because they're used to training potentially in empty cages, empty rooms. So that might not be as much of an issue as it could be. But yeah, I think it's a really good fight. I think this entire card has some excellent fights on it. Some really interesting and technical fighters, not just in terms of styles, where you might get that, with a fight on a card or a couple of fights in the card. This is stacked for the actual skill set that each of these fighters have. Not necessarily all the biggest names, not exactly, we've got one title fight, we don't have like the 3 title fights that we've had in past events. But yeah, I think it's a huge card, and a very interesting card as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a sleeper card. I think you look down the names of the fighters that are fighting. Maybe you don't recognize them as much. Like I say, even like John Dodson, I've not watched much of, and Merab and things like that as well. I think although when you look at that, it's possible on the surface not the sort of go-to, as you say, that some other big cards have had. I think the matchups are some of the best this year. I think it's going to be a really fascinating card, and this fight, I'm tipping it as fight tonight. I think.
Okay, yeah, and you know what? Actually, you could be very right in the simple fact that Vera likes to he likes to brawl a bit. He likes to get shot at and hit, and he likes to take all and then work something out for it. In his last fight against Song Yadong, the second and third round are just an absolute war. First round a bit as well. They're kind of he gets in tight with him and he gets hit a lot, and then he kind of readjusts. And the second, third round are just two guys in a pocket beating the shit out of each other, But in saying that, Vera gets the better of Song Yudong in a lot of the exchanges, does more damage, and managed to get a couple of takedowns in the last round as well, and then gets screwed by the judges. So he was very angry at that. He wouldn't shake Song Yudong's hand, and it's not his fault, but he was pissed. So he's gonna have a lot of not so much anger, but he's probably have a lot of drive going at this fight. He wants to win this fight. He wants to go out and he wants to get that win. He doesn't want that to go to the judges. So he's going to be quite happy to go in and swing and bang with him, which might play into O'Malley's hands a bit, because O'Malley, his movement is incredible. It's really interesting. It's not necessarily, it's not like he is world class and it's the best in the world. He's not a Dominic Cruz, but he does some sort of similar sort of things with his movement. He's very in and out, and he will pop in, take a couple of shots, he'll maybe take a shot, he's out again. Somebody will come in, he's out of range, and he's moving back and forth. Okay, so Dom will move to the side a lot more. He swings out of the way a lot more, whereas he kind of does something similar, just forward and back. And people talk about his right hand. I think that's what gives him the power of the right hand, because as he's popping back, his hand is coming from here, and it's not just traveling the length of the punch, but he's moving forward into it as well. So he gets that extra bit of momentum into it. Boom. Yep. We saw it against Wineland. It dropped him. He did it in the Contender series. Dana White does. It's a very dangerous tool that he has, and that works with his movement perfectly. Because if he pops out and he comes straight back and it manages to come through, then he drops people. He knocks them out. Vera's got to be careful that he doesn't let him do that, because, as I said, Vera's going to enjoy, okay, let's go. Let's get in the pocket. Let's fight. He wants to get in close and fight with his opponent. But he can't afford to do that too much, because that could be what O'Malley needs. Just pop out. Okay, you're going to start swinging again. Boom, I'm going to come in with movement there. He's still very young as a fighter. He's only 5 years as a pro, with a 2-year layoff in between as well. So realistically, he's been fighting for 3 years. If you think of it as a mathematical way, he's only been fighting for 3 years. That, to have that kind of movement and that tool is incredible at that sort of fight age, but that's 3 years of experience, fighting experience, whereas Vera's got 8 years as a pro, and his longest layoff is like 13 months. And in the past 4 years, basically, including 2017, he's fought 3 times every year. He fights tonight, that's 2 this year, and he can fight again later on in the year. That is very active. He says himself he's very lucky that he's not had any sort of injuries that have taken him out of his fight game, but out of contention for fights. So I think that could actually play into Vera a lot, because he's got experience, and he is going to have something to prove, and he's probably got a wider range of tools to fight than Sean O'Malley does. So far, we've only seen Sean O'Malley on the feet. Although he was asked, I think it was Megan Levy in an interview, we've not seen you tested on the ground. How do you think you would cope if that's where Vera takes it? And he openly says, I absolutely love jiu-jitsu. I love training on the ground. I just enjoy knocking people out more. So that could be posturing, that could be bullshit, but if he puts that much work into his ground game that he does to his hands, and his hands are working that well, going down the ground shouldn't be an issue for him.
Yeah. Woogie606, thanks for the follow. I believe this is someone that knows you, Craig, because they said, Meech.
Yes, that's Dave. That's, mate Dave. We used to watch a lot of UFC years ago. We were in a band together as well.
Are you going to self-promote your band as well, eh?
No, because I'm not in the band anymore, but I don't know if they're still active, but it was a band called Kamehameha. I think somewhere you can
Nice.
still find
Nice.
the music.
Nice.
None of which I recorded, actually. I only played live. So
Ah, okay.
I
You
can't
weren't good
even
enough
be
for the
like, oh,
studio,
yeah,
eh?
that's good.
Yeah.
What's that?
You weren't good enough for the studio, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so well, Wookie says creativity versus experience. I think that's that's summed up in a nutshell, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's so easy to say it's O'Malley's toughest test, but I don't think you can actually state how tough I feel it's going to be for him. As you say, Vera's got so much different tools, and likes to scrap, likes to take it down. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very tough fight. I mean, you were saying about Sean O'Malley and his movement and his strike and the things, and yeah, absolutely, he is so creative, and the way that he does things is maybe it's one of those that well, yeah, it is. You can get a knockout out of anywhere. You change the fight just on a dime basically, but it's gonna be a tough one, and that's why I think it's gonna be fight of the night. I think it's gonna be a back and forth. I think it's gonna be technical prowess from both fighters in both different ways. And we'll see from there. But yeah, I saw that actually as well. The interview where O'Malley was saying how he loves jiu-jitsu, he loves doing it, and I believe there was something about his takedowns and things. I think he was saying he loves submitting folk as well. So I don't know. We'll need to see what happens there. I'm kind of interested to see if it does go down, then what kind of happens.
Yeah.
We could say O'Malley trained with Rafael Lovato Jr.
Okay.
So I don't know who that is. I was hoping.
I'm fairly certain he's a fighter.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what each of these guys do to adjust to each other, because O'Malley probably doesn't want to get in that sort of brawl because he's not that sort of striker. But Vera's got to get inside to be able to do that, to be able to fight them that way. So yeah, it's not going to be as simple as just O'Malley's going to be able to stand and bang with him, and Vera's got to do the same. We could end up seeing that, which does make it exciting. I don't think it will work out that way, but it has every potential to be two guys swinging at each other for 15 minutes. So it could be interesting.
I was just looking up Lovato Jr. He's the guy that had to retire, didn't he? Because he had something wrong with his brain or something, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. Brain condition called cerebral cavernoma. Yeah, I do remember him now. So yeah. Wookie says Bellator middleweight champ and world jiu-jitsu champ. So
yes,
I mean, if you're going to be training with people about jiu-jitsu, I think that's probably the best you can do. Stu Simi says Dodson is 2-1 just to win the bookies. Well, we both went for Dodson, so if you want to win some money and give us the commission, that'd be great.
Mission.
Yeah, so absolutely. Anything else you want to cover about that fight, Craig?
No, it should be pretty
okay.
Good.
Right, okay. I'll give my prediction then. I'm going for Vera by decision.
I've got Vera by decision as well. I was convinced that you were going to be going for O'Malley because you seemed a bit hyped on him, which is understandable. I know people are excited by him because of what he's done and because of he's got that kind of highlights reel behind him already. But no, I'm a bit surprised. I'm surprised you didn't go for him. So,
you're right though. Like I am hyped for him. I think he's going to be a fantastic fighter. I think, I don't want to use the comparison because he's not, but he's got the Conor McGregor swagger. He's got like he does Twitch. He has a YouTube channel where, I think he was saying his Suga Show merch is now like doing 6 figures in the past week or so. So he's got he's kind of elevated past mixed martial arts. So he has that kind of star power, but I do think that that Vera beats him, and I think it's going to be quite good for him to get a loss this early.
He's undefeated just now, right?
Yeah.
So like that in itself, you will virtually never find an undefeated fighter. Virtually never. Like Khabib's a different animal.
Yeah.
And he has went through a couple of rough tests. Dustin Poirier, I think, was probably the closest to kind of getting anywhere where he had that guillotine on him.
Connor actually was closer.
Fuck off.
I'm joking, by the way, just for my.
I think you're right in terms of the star power that he has. He does have that kind of. He's got a bit of that swagger about him, but he doesn't have the asshole around him. You know. Yeah. He's still quite humble, and he's not putting himself out there as the next big thing. He's like, I want to be there, but I want to work to get there. Like he's not making out that he is the best thing since sliced bread, sort of thing. On Twitch as well, yeah. So like he's a gamer. He's a bit of a if I use terminology, nerd, which is kind of inaccurate, but because you can be a nerd about anything. You know, if you like football and you find out about every fight, every player and every team, you're a nerd about football. You're a nerd, and if you don't like that, well, tough shit. Like that's the simple fact of it.
Sorry, have you touched on a nerve there, have we?
No, I think it's just like nerd isn't a derogatory term, or it shouldn't be used as a derogatory term because amount of people were like, "No, you're such a nerd." It's like, okay, so you can tell me probably every left back in the Scottish Premiership. Yeah, you're a nerd. Like, fucking give up. But yeah, we kind of spoke about this a bit earlier in terms of UFC wants to skyrocket people to the moon. O'Malley's on that rocket just now, and maybe he does need the loss to reassess what he's doing. Not so much reassess what he's doing, but maybe kind of go, okay, so I didn't do well that fight, so I need to do better the next one. That's what I want to see. It doesn't matter to me if he then wins another fight and another fight. It's after a loss that we'll see what he's worth, and if he can make adjustments to what he does to make him a better fighter. Not necessarily make him, change what he does, because we've seen what he's doing works. So we'll have to wait and see if what he's doing is going to continue to work.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think, like I said, like you were saying about getting a loss, they always say you learn more from your losses. And to learn that much this early, there's going to be then no pressure or less pressure on him to continue this crazy streak, especially with crazy knockouts and things. And yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with what you're saying. A good example of kind of that as well, and it's not quite came about yet, but Tony Ferguson, on a 12-fight win streak, gets humbled by Justin Gaethje, and his next fight is probably going to be one of the most anticipated of his fights he's ever had. Apart from obviously the Khabib fight, because that's never going to happen. But you see what he's going to learn from what's happened and how that's going to, as you say, not change exactly what you're doing potentially, but evolve and become a more rounded or, what it's going to do to him going forward. And it could be the same with Sean O'Malley if he does lose. So.
I mean, Tony Ferguson's already done that. It's whether he does that again and is able to do that again. I think Gaethje was just a different animal, and Gaethje fucked everything up for everyone, I like that, but there's also that makes things more interesting as well. But that's probably something we could touch on another time, because I think that's a whole subject in itself.
Definitely. Wookie says Dodson is the best nerd, though. Is Dodson a nerd, is he?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain he wears like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle
Legend
outfits when he's training. He's best friends with Andrei Arlovsky as well, which is hilarious.
Okay,
real life, little and large, and they're so funny. Like if you go back and find any of the embeddeds or stuff, where I think Arlovsky was fighting for a title at the time, And they're just like a pair of kids. Like, it's so funny to see them together. So yeah, he's a big nerd as well.
Nice. Stu, I would say if you are betting, I think probably O'Malley will be the favourite for the fight. So Vera decision could get you a pretty penny. Okay, anything else you want to cover about that, or?
No, we're good.
No? Okay, cool. Right, this is it. The main event. Stipe versus DC3.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm pumped. Honestly, I'm so pumped for this.
So
Cannot wait.
I am really excited for the fight itself. Okay, so the fight is only like 50% of what I'm excited about. So what I'm excited about is what's next, because depending on what happens with this fight, there is not just like a top 5, top 6, maybe even top 10 of heavyweight fighters that are behind these guys that are all itching to kind of get into that title contention. We know for a fact that Ngannou is going to be next in line, whoever wins. But this is a huge fight. Like, so in terms of, we've seen the first fight, DC dropping Stipe with that beautiful clinch game that he has, where he just ducks in under and catches that right hook on the jaw and just drops and finishes him. And it's something that he utilizes a lot. Like, he did it against John Jones. He's done it against multiple other fighters where he's found something that works for him. And where he was effective against John Jones, that's what he was doing. He was getting in close and he was getting lots of uppercuts and being able to do a lot of damage on the inside. Then we see 3 rounds of him beating up Stipe again. And you're sitting there going, man, this fight is done. There's no way Stipe's winning this. He's just got to keep getting beat up. And he makes an adjustment. Maybe not necessarily an adjustment. He just finds something that works, because he then starts moving. What he should have done from the very start, and what he was doing so well for his heavyweight career and his heavyweight title reign, was being able to move and finding things that works. And he finds it so beautifully by going for the body. The people look at the body shots in terms of the punches that he lands, those sort of uppercut shots to the stomach, and it hurts DC. Just prior to that, he hits him with a couple of knees as well when he's in close. That in itself, that takes a bit out of DC. And then from there, he just hits him low, hits him high, stuns DC, and finishes the fight from there. So we've seen domination from DC. We've seen Stipe make adjustments and then get the win. And now we're looking at the fact that this is DC's retirement fight. This is his biggest fight of his career. And you've got Stipe, who is arguably the best heavyweight the UFC's ever seen, longest UFC heavyweight win streak as a champion. So most title defenses, probably more accurate, sorry. And still able to fight. People are almost looking at this as, if Stipe wins or loses, then he's done anyway as well. This isn't the case, like, at all. Stipe's still going to be very active after this, win or loss. So yeah, it's like the fight itself is so exciting. But what comes next? I genuinely, so there's like this fantasy world where DC wins, John Jones says, okay, let's do it heavyweight, and DC goes, yeah, screw it, why not? And we get that trilogy fight that DC has the advantage at heavyweight. And even Jones has said, I don't want to fight a heavyweight against DC because he would have the edge. But that's the dream, right? That's what could be the dream. I don't think there's anybody else that DC would turn around and go, okay, yeah, fair enough, one more for. And if he wins, he goes out on top, and he could walk away, and he is one of the greatest heavyweight fighters, one of the light heavyweight and heavyweight greatest fighters that we've seen in the UFC. And if Stipe wins, you could still get that Jones fight, because why not? But you've also got then all of these absolute animals below him being like, okay, I want my shot at Stipe now. I want to get that title shot. We've seen Stipe and Ngannou. Stipe managed to get the win there. but that could be a great fight again because Ngannou's got that, ridiculous power that could win him any fight against any opponent. And Stipe managed to find a way to deal with that. So this is just a really exciting fight for the actual fight itself, and then what comes next. Like, really exciting.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's as I said, I'm absolutely bloody hyped for this fight. I'm not going to use any swear words. I'm trying to be family friendly, but
I've dropped a few F-bombs already.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The first two fights, I watched them a couple of times back this week. DC had both those fights in the bag. He was, doing everything right in the first one, and you're right, the clinch, a beautiful clinch, and the hook to drop him, unbelievable. The second fight, Stipe just looked, I don't know, lethargic, and he wasn't moving. He has said in interviews since that he doesn't know what it was. It was just something that was stopping him from doing that, stopping him from moving things, and that's not going to happen this time. But when he made the change and started to go to the body, the fight changed in an absolute dime, and he managed to obviously put DC away, which was unbelievable. It was to come back from that kind of, it was the fourth round, wasn't it? The first 3 rounds went to DC, and the fourth round he dropped him. Looking at Stipe now, he weighed in at 233, I believe it was. He looks absolutely shredded. So that to me says that he is, looking at the conditioning, he's trying to make sure he's lighter on his feet, he's faster, he's moving about, he's moving his head, which he didn't do again, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Something he's really good at is moving. Like, that's his game. That's how you don't get your head taken off by Ngannou. Like, he does that, and he did that.
Absolutely, and that's why it was so strange to see it against DC, where he didn't, and paid for it the first, and almost paid for it obviously in the second. I think that the weigh-in is really interesting because, like I say, he has dropped weight. He looks shredded. DC's actually put on weight and has said that he is going to be, focusing on the takedowns. He managed to take down Stipe a couple times. Can't remember exactly the amount. And that's obviously, DC's bread and butter. He's an Olympian when it comes to wrestling. He also said at the press conference that he's wanting to take him down, but he also enjoys punching his face, he said. It will be interesting to see what's there. But I think with the weight, I think that's going to be him. That's a sign that he's going to be wanting to take it down and wrestle and do what he does best. But I
think as well, though, like, if he carries a bit extra weight, he has that knockout power as well. He maybe didn't quite have that same power in general as well for like takedowns at light heavyweight. I mean, he still held that division at bay, bar John Jones, and we all know how those fights kind of played out, and the outcomes of that, because of course they're not 2 losses on this record either. So it's because at least the first one's been overturned as a known contest. Maybe the second one was as well. Actually, no, I don't think the second one was.
No.
But that's where DC has thrived at heavyweight. He was a heavyweight fighter from the start when he was in Strikeforce. So that's where he lives, He said, however, so it's interesting that he came in heavier, because he actually said after the last fight, he was lethargic, he was tired, and he thought that the weight, like, he was doing a lot more work so that he didn't get tired. So coming heavier after putting in that sort of work, that's interesting. But if this is your last fight, you may work a lot harder, But if you know that your diet doesn't have to be as good, maybe you get away with not dieting as much. Maybe you get away with the fact that you can eat his, Popeye's chicken and his cake when he wants, because he knows that he can do it. And so it's you'd like to think, I'm pretty positive he's worked probably as hard as he ever has for this fight. What that then means for like how it translates is going to be very different. Very different.
Definitely.
He keeps talking about his wrestling game. Why not? Yeah. He can take down Stipe, and he can do a lot of damage to him that way. And he's not going to be afraid of getting in on Stipe. But Stipe is not a walkover when it comes to wrestling. Stipe's got good wrestling himself, good takedown defense. And sure, you got taken down by DC, but that was one of DC's high crotch, put you over my head, and I'm going to drop you on your head sort of thing. Actually, I think he was on his back. Like it was a really weird, backpack he ended up.
Yeah, it was, because I think DC got him up, and then he tried to adjust while he was on his back, and that's when DC dumped him.
Yeah. So, the possibility of DC taking you down is pretty inevitable.
Yeah.
And if he gets the high crotch, so when his hands are locked high on the inside of the leg, that's the high crotch, and he loves that position to then just elevate and put you over. So if he wants to do that, he'll do that. I believe that. I don't have any question about that. Yeah. Whether that's going to win the fight or not, because he needs to keep doing that. And if he's going to be tired, he's not going to be able to do that. Yeah. And then Stipe's going to be able to pick him off again. So he might end up making the same mistakes he did in the second fight, and paying for it. And then that's his legacy. Like he doesn't want to have two guys on his legacy that he couldn't beat. I mean, he's not got a bad legacy at all. He is one of the best light heavyweight and heavyweight champions we've had. Period.
Yeah.
He wants to obviously go out on top of this. So does he actually finish after this one? Because he can still go. He's young enough that he can still go. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, he could totally screw everything up, or the likes of a Jones could screw everything up by saying, right, okay, let's do it at heavyweight. And Ngannou's left, then he has to take on another fight. In fact, if DC wins, Stipe could fight Ngannou. Stipe wins again, and Ngannou loses his number one shot, his title shot. So there's a lot of things that could happen this. And again, a lot of it's maybe fantasy booking. We want to see these legacy fights again and again because they are so exciting, because there's the storied history. But realistically, it might never happen. And DC is more than able to walk away from the sport at this point on top, as he says, even if he takes the loss, and still be a Hall of Famer. So it's I think the fantasy idea, you want him to keep fighting, but if he's got his heart set on finishing, if his family has got his heart set on finishing, if he now decides that, I've got so many other things I can do. He keeps joking about how he's going to take up golf. That's just
I've seen that.
That's his retirement. And he, from what I see as well, he's not very good at golf. So.
No, it's shocking, absolutely shocking.
But you know what? He has the commentary jobs. He has the wrestling jobs with his own gym and the schools that he teaches at. And he talks about the second fight against Stipe, where he had a lot going on. He was doing a lot. I think he's been able to take a step back from everything else that he's doing. Current state of the world might have helped that for him. But so even though he's coming heavier, he could be in far better shape than he's ever been, or at least better shape than he's been in years. So, he is more than entitled to walk away. Absolutely. I don't think anybody wants him to walk away, but we'll see. We'll see how it ends up.
And that's it. You were saying there, obviously, about walking away on top, no matter what happens. Even if he does walk away, he's still he will still be commentating, and as a commentator, I think he's brilliant. He's entertaining, he's insightful, he's articulate. So he could be the GOAT in fighting and the GOAT, or one of the GOATs in commentating as well. Whatever he wants to do, I'm sure everyone will be right behind him. Although, and Dana White had an interview with Brett Okamoto, and he did say that he doesn't think this is DC's last fight. We'll see.
I think Dana would want to say that because DC's got making money. People either tune in to see DC win because they like DC, or they want to see him get his face smashed in because they don't like DC. So he's not as divisive as some fighters, but people that's still the way his career has gone. People either love to see him or love to see him get beat. So I mean, and like I said, thinking about fantasy booking, Dana would 100% throw a couple of $100 million DC and Jones' way. Okay, let's make this, real super fight. Light heavyweight champion moving up to challenge the heavyweight champion, which DC is the only one to do, and do it successfully. Not just do it. If there's enough money in the bank, I think Dana would push it. And if DC comes out of this one relatively unscathed, if we see another first round knockout, he might turn around and go, okay, book it for a couple of months' time. Let's do it. We'll see. It's all the things that could happen that make this really exciting.
Definitely.
And if DC walks away from the sport, win or loss, look at who we've got behind him. Stipe has been all but guaranteed a title fight because of his body of work. Ngannou has been guaranteed to fight a title fight, so we could get that. Curtis Blades, who's just fought Volkov and won. You've got Derek Lewis, who's just beat Olenek. JDS and Rosenstruck, they're on tonight, so whoever wins that is going to be in contention. Who may then even fight Lewis for a number one contenders fight. Overeem's still there. Olenek still kind of there. Walt Harris there. Volkov and Sky. So this is kind of like that. That's roughly the top 10 guys. And even a few below that, you've then got the likes of Verdun, who obviously got that win against Gustafsson. Which we both called wrong. That was a huge, huge surprise because 2 months prior, Verdun looked like absolute dog shit. Like, he didn't look good in that fight at all. And then comes and absolutely blasts through an excellent fighter. And somebody that was a bad match for him. Like, it should have been a bad match for him. Should have been. There's, especially if Gustafsson comes back soon and fights again and gets a win over one of these guys, then that's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny you were saying about DC and how divisive and stuff he is. I used to hate him. I used to really not like him at all. I don't even know why. I know when I first started watching, it was just like, do you not like this guy? But the more and more that I appreciate the way he fights, the body of work he has, now I love him. I think DC's brilliant. And again, as I say, in terms of the fighting and in terms of commentating as well. So, I think probably got predictions, but before we do that, I'm just going to quickly run through the chat because there's quite a lot of things that have been put in. So Stu's saying 12-1 travel for a win only on the 3 you've agreed with. Beans on toast, it goes tits up. So it's pretty decent. Gabby redeemed Pokemon impression Psyduck, so I'll quickly try that. I think it goes kind of like Psy. That was good enough.
It's pretty good. I like that one. Your Mew was shit, but your Psyduck's pretty good.
Thanks. Grant says DC versus Brock Lesnar. I think that ship's kind of sailed, doesn't it? Yeah,
absolutely never happened.
It was going to happen, but then I think, it was after Brock popping for steroids after Mark Hunt, wasn't it? That kind of threw that.
Yes. So he would have had to serve a 4-month suspension, and he had to then get into the USADA testing. And you could see, actually, if you were watching like WWE at the time, you could actually see him getting smaller.
Yeah.
But never happened. He's gone. And that's not a fight that people will pay for because people are stupid. people will love Brock Lesnar because he's a big name, because he's a character. Mm-hmm. So DC versus Brock Lesnar, sure, that's something that people pay for. Hell, I'd probably watch it as well. It's not. It's not a good fight. It's not an entertainment. It's not a fight that holds any relevance whatsoever in the sport.
No,
so,
I agree.
Yeah, why would we bother?
I think if it happened when we thought it was going to happen, fine, absolutely fine. But yeah, I don't think it's a fight that DC really needs to take. I don't think it's a fight that we need to see now. Collective says Mitchell is a top, and then the C word. I'm not going to say it. You can say it if you wish.
Can I say it?
If you want, go for it.
He's a top cunt.
Yeah, he said that. Wookie says Stipe sounds a bit punchy to me. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Stipe's always been like that though. He needs his subtitles whenever he's on Embedded because he's pretty slurring his words and things like that. So I don't know whether that's because of the fights he's had, or if it's just the way he talks and things. Anyway,
I think part of that is just the way he talks as well. Because if you watch some of the Embeddeds that he had when he was like reigning champ for a while, like he would just be talking shit. There was one where he was at the Embedded, followed him to a car boot sale, and he had like $1,000, and he was like, "We're just gonna spend all this on shit," and like did that, and it's like, okay, fair enough. And then you look. What's hilarious about that as well is, so he went to a flea market, I think it's called in the States, but like a car boot sale and dropped $1,000. You look at the house he's in now, and he has basically a gym in his basement. Like a
banging, like, isn't it?
Huge gym that you could have like, a team training in, and that's in his basement. And apparently his mum walks in and talks shit to him while he's getting punched in the face, which I think is hilarious as well. So like stuff like that, like he's just a really funny character, like a really funny guy. But yeah, he does mumble a bit, but I don't think that's like, punch drunk. I don't think he's absorbed that sort of damage to make him like that. But maybe, you don't know how he trains, if he wears headgear, if he doesn't, or if he's training with some guy that's smashing his face in, 7 days a week. Like, you don't know. But
absolutely. Yeah,
I don't
know. So Wiki also says cake and Popeyes equals beast. Yep, that's the diet of a champion right there. He also says Jacked White Boy. I'm assuming he's talking about me. So thanks for that, Wiki. I appreciate that.
Jacked White Boy.
Jacked White Boy. Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's me. That's 3 words to describe me. Collective Unit says you're goddamn right. I think that was about what you said. That you're a top C word. Billy Dashand. So there's a dog. Says Collective Unit sucks. Which is fair enough. And so Wiki just said that was Lesnar's comment on steroid accusations. Oh, right, okay, yeah, so it was. Yeah, it's just a jacked white boy. I remember that. But yeah,
okay,
yeah, I remember that. I think we've kind of covered all that, haven't we? Are you happy enough with what we spoke about?
Yeah.
Okay. Time for predictions then.
So before you
say
you were right. This is 100% the fight I don't have a pick for. Okay. So I'm just going to go with the opposite of whatever you go.
Okay.
I really hope that you've got a prediction.
I do. No, I was going to go with the opposite of what you did. So what are we going to do now? Right. So
she can choose one for me.
So I do have a prediction. I have a prediction of the winner, the round, and the method of victory.
Okay.
That's how confident I am.
Okay.
My prediction is it will end in the 4th round. It will be a TKO.
Okay.
And Stipe is going to win.
Okay, so you think we're going to see a repeat of the second fight?
I do. I don't think it's going to go the same way. I think it's going to be a lot closer fight. I think that Stipe is going to utilize the head movement, the movement in general. I do think he's going to get taken down, obviously, by DC. I think that there's going to be a lot of, a lot of clinching, but I believe that Stipe is going to learn from that. And I think the fact that it's going to be in a smaller Octagon does favor DC. I think the fact that there's not a crowd there favors Stipe. So, yeah, Stipe, 4th round TKO.
Okay, I will go for DC then.
Cool.
So I think DC takes it.
Are you sure of that?
I'll go first round KO.
First round KO.
First round KO.
Jeez,
I
okay.
think if DC goes in and does what he is able to do, what he wants to, first round KO.
Right. Okay. Wow. Jeez, that's I like it. I like it. Again, you know, I mean, I've said DC wins, and you know, you obviously went opposite way. If either of these guys wins, I'll be happy. I think both of them deserve to do
DC
it.
Wins. What was that?
I said if either wins, I'll be happy. So
I'm fairly certain you just said, "Oh yeah, I've said DC wins," and you went the opposite way. So is that you?
Oh no, sorry. Okay, sorry. I said Stipe. I said Stipe. I didn't copy what Craig said. I only used to. No, I think either of these guys wins. I'm chuffed for them. I think both of them deserve to win. So we obviously can't have two winners in this sport that we call MMA. But can
you imagine if it ends in a draw?
Oh, imagine. That would be mental.
That would be the most ridiculous end to this fight trilogy.
If it ends a draw, there's going to be a fourth fight. Like DC will not finish on a draw.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that'd be fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah. So in the comments, we've got Collective says, I say Guru to win 60 versus Massey. Shut up. Billy says, will DC cry? Yeah, probably. If it is his last fight, yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't. Okay, so that is it. I'll just quickly run through the predictions again, because I know obviously Stu has won an insight on betting and stuff. So Dodson versus Merab, we both went for Dodson KO. Burns versus Pineda, I went for Burns submission. Craig went for Burns KO. JDS Rosenstruck, I went for Rosenstruck early KO, and Craig went for JDS KO, which is fucking stupid. I don't know why I chose that. O'Malley Vera, we both went for Vera by decision. And then with Stipe DC, I went Stipe TKO round 4. Craig went DC first round KO. So a lot of different things. Dawson, Burns, Vera, treble. So is that the 12-1 you're getting for that, Stu?
What was that, sorry?
So Stu, I think he's put on a Dodson, Burns, Vera treble. So I think that's the one he was getting 12-1 for. So yeah, it was about 12-1. Not bad.
And that's still shite odds though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're putting that's obviously just a win. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you do win that, I'm sure you'll have $4.99 to drop a sub for me. Honestly, I'm just going to keep promoting it until folk keep subbing.
Go for it, mate.
So yeah. Yeah, I mean, anything else you want to add, Craig, before we head off? Or
no, I think, like I said, tonight has so much excitement behind it, and people who are not that interested in the sport itself will be really excited about DC Miocic itself, and are going to be treated to an absolute spectacle with the other fights as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really good card.
I completely agree. Mitchell to KO Massey in the last 10 seconds, says Collective Unit. Sorry, the first 10 seconds. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'll take Craig down and I'll drown him on the ground. So yeah. Billy Dashin says, going by UFC referee and lately, Volkanovski will win the Stipe versus DC fight. Oh, amazing. Stu says, I'm going to be staying up to watch live. Enjoy the event, lads. Yeah, we will be as well. So we do have a Zoom chat. So if you want, feel free. You can jump into that. I don't know if I should put it up on here or will I? I
probably wouldn't, just in case you get
randoms and stuff.
Randoms dropping in at any given point,
Yeah, Stu, if you want to join into it, though, give me a message on here, a whisper, and I can send you the details. Because I know, I believe Higgins is jumping in as well. Sorry, Collective Unit's jumping in as well. I know where's my mate's coming over anyway, but thanks. All right, okay, no worries, that's fine. Well, I mean, we'll be on Twitter, obviously, chatting away about it. So I don't know if we follow each other on Twitter. I think we do. But we can obviously keep up to date with that and stuff there. But no, it's great. Okay.
I'm not on Twitter, so
oh yeah,
you
Craig's
can
not on Twitter.
talk as much as he wants about me.
I mean,
I'll just have to take it.
Who's not on Twitter these days anyway? Who doesn't do all the social media platforms?
I'm actually head of social media for PPVW. So,
Jesus. Well, that's why you don't get views then, is it?
No, we get plenty of views, mate. Had more views than you have.
Stu, so Collective Unit says Hipster Mitchell, and Stu says I've even got OnlyFans. Well, if you sub to me on here, I'll sub to you on OnlyFans. Oh well. Yeah, okay, so I think that'll do it. Thanks so much for everyone that dropped by. Thanks again, obviously, for Grant for the sub, Stu for the follow, and Wookie as well for the follow. I appreciate that, dudes. And a couple of you guys obviously redeemed your channel rewards. Thanks to all the mods, of course. Sorry, Collective. Yeah, thanks to all the mods for doing a fantastic sterling job. I really appreciate it, dude. But yeah, so excited for tonight. Like I say, if you don't follow me on Twitter, please do. I'll be tweeting away about the fights as they go on. But I'm going to be having a nap at like 8 o'clock, and I'll wake up, I think, probably about 2:30, 3-ish. So yeah, I think I'll just invite you then, Craig, and we can watch it live. And Collective, are you going to be staying up to watch as well, Collective?
I think he said he was going to be the other night, so
I'm sure he will. He'll probably be playing Fall Guys anyway till that time. So
it's a great game, mate.
Yeah, Collective says maybe you might fall asleep on the call. That's fair enough. Also, Stu says, I think I'll watch the prelims, want to watch Jim Miller. So that's what you were saying, Craig, before?
Jim Miller and Vince Pichel. So Jim Miller is an incredible grappler and also has some amazing fights behind him. Vince Pichel used to be in UFC. I don't think he's been very active recently, but it's kind of something we spoke about with the idea of Fight Island. You know, guys getting a paycheck that might not have before. And I think that's the case with Pichel. Jim Miller, maybe not as so, because he has been pretty prominent for a number of years. But again, getting a fight, and it's exciting. So if you're going to be watching any of the prelims, that's a really good one to look out for.
Definitely. Okay, well, thanks so much, guys. I'm going to leave it there, but what we'll do is we'll actually do a wee raid, because we've got 8 viewers, so it's actually worth doing a raid. We're going to go over to that Grumpy Scots, and I'm sure Collective is probably watching already. He's doing a horror stream just now, where he's getting scared playing Outlast.
Fuck that game.
So we'll go fly over there just now. You don't have to watch it, but he's doing
I've completed Outlast, and it's fucking terrifying.
Right, okay. So it'll be quite funny to go over. I don't know what the alert will be when we go and raid him, so he might get a wee scare. So that'll be pretty funny. Yeah, Collective says please follow Grumpy. So we'll fly over, and if you don't follow him already, please do. He's a really good guy. He is from Australia, so I'm sure Billy Dashand will, or he stays there. So I'm sure Billy Dashand will follow him if he doesn't already. So yeah, we'll go and raid him just now, and be sure to say hello. And like I say, he's from Glasgow. I know he's from Glasgow, but he's staying in Australia. Yeah, we'll go over and fire him just now. But thanks so much, guys, for taking the time out to watch us, and we'll catch you next one. Bye-bye.
See you there. Bye.
This is where I was fucking up.